Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh, and this is Testimonies. Now, for years, I've tried to figure out what to do with this channel, and so I finally feel like I got it down, and this is it. Life experiences and education has brought me to this. I believe in God, the Father. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe in the Holy Spirit. That means I believe in the Holy Trinity, which also means I believe there is a hell, and I believe all bad people are going to it. And if I don't continue to try and change my ways, I might end up there. But my love for Jesus Christ grows even more. And in my mindset, I think I'm saved and I'm going to heaven. But I'm not going to say that for sure. I'm just going to keep trying. The thing is, there's things that God showed me. And I don't mean that in the most literalist way you can take it. Like, God is, if I say, hey, God, is there tea? And God shows me tea. That's not how that went. No. I mean, when God showed me, He either put someone or something to pass by me in order for me to notice it. And sometimes it takes me a long minute to notice it. And so when I do realize it, I'm like, thank you, God. Like, I didn't even think of that. Like, thank you, There's some small ones that you didn't even think about, and there's really humongous ones that if you open up and really pay attention to the beginning to the end, it'll show you that God is there. So that's what I want to bring to you. That's my experiences that opened up my eyes. Like there's a short one, here's a small one. Not too long ago, like I said, I'm not, the quickest, I found out the word Lord and Jesus was King, like King Jesus. Like, I thought for the longest time that when you associated Lord and Jesus, it meant like something else. But thanks to the AOC channel, he opened my eyes on that one. That's God showing you. Yeah, I don't know why I just did that weird stuff. I'm weird. Tea. It's delicious. So, out of all the things I could talk about that's affected my life and brought me closer to God, there was the one that sticks out the hardest, and that was the first time my wife was pronounced dead. Big sigh, because there's a lot, and it's emotions that might come out. It was, I met her in 2006. That story's great, meeting her. That's another God testimony. I will bring that within the next few videos, because it ties everything together. For those of you wondering who Heather is, you probably ask after a couple of these videos. In this channel, I'm going to leave them up. I'm not going to take them down. There's her 2 videos that she put up. I was married to that. I know, shocking. Ugly guy. No. So what it is she was my soulmate, man. I didn't think they existed. I really didn't. I was a fat kid. I'm still kind of a fat kid. I'm 6'3", 315 pounds. But the Lord's blessed me with strength, and so I use that to my, benefit. And working around this 5 acres and stuff, and anytime anybody needs help moving or something, I'm down to help. I will. That's me. So anyways, I met Heather in 2006. It was great. she was great. I married her 3 months after I met her. That's how great she was to me. Anyways, we're gonna fast forward because our relationship's long, and I mean, it's not that long. It was 8 years, but it's long. You couple a lot of testimonies in there. You can do it. Trust me, I have quite a few. There's a lot of videos coming. I just got to get the motivation and willpower to do it. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry I bounce. I'm trying. The day I'm talking about happened about 4 years after we got together. It was in 2011, April 16th, 6 o'clock in the morning. A few months earlier, December in 2010, she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And that April, she was supposed to be wearing a defibrillator. They had a little vest thing. And she was wearing it. 6 o'clock in the morning, I guess it rolled up and she went into cardiac arrest. And I'm normally a heavy sleeper, but I was hearing noises, like gargling kind of noises. And so I rolled over, and her eyes are rolled in the back of her head, and she's in some kind of seizure state. And at first, to be honest, I thought she was messing with me, because she kind of had a dark humor type thing going on, making jokes like that, even when she was sick. But she wasn't. Sad. I don't know why I laughed about it, but it was sad in the moment. I didn't know what to do. I was shocked. Like, I was trying to shake her. I even tapped on her face. Nothing. And then she went limp. And I screamed help. That's all I could do. I mean, as loud as I could, I screamed help. And in this house that we were living at, I lived in the front bedroom with Heather. It wasn't even a bedroom, it was the front living room. We slept on a double air mattress. Our girls slept above our heads on the couch. We had a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old daughter at the point. And I screamed help, and her aunt and mom and cousin come running out, and her dad comes running out. And so my mom asked me to help get her to the floor. So we get her to the floor, and I pull the air mattress out of the living room and pull it into the kitchen, which is right next to the living room. Her dad's calling 911, and her mom's doing CPR. And at this moment, I just go over there and try to hold on the girls. And I mean, Bree doesn't. The youngest one doesn't understand, and the older one, she's seeing this. 3 years old. And so, the EMTs finally make it, and their first words, as soon as they get to her and start messing with her, is they don't have a pulse. At this moment, my heart drops. I'm watching my wife die. And so I pray. It was an instinct. And I'm glad I did. I prayed. I mean, it's what you can pray, or anybody does pray when they finally do pray something at that moment. Dear God, I can't do this alone. Please don't take her. I love her too much. I'm not ready for her to go. And so I asked him, I said, even if you have to use my dad and put a golden boot on him and kick her butt back down here, I'm just not ready for her to go. And a little side note on that, my dad had passed away just prior in November of 2010, which is another testimony. So yeah, it was still kind of a fresh situation, but and And then I hear it again while I'm praying, is that, they still have a pulse. The second time they said that, they didn't have a pulse. And I was beginning to lose hope. But I finished my prayer and I said, in Jesus' name, I love you, thank you. And because, and I say that because I've been taught my whole life is, when you talk to God, it's not you're talking to Him as in you're expecting to get what you get because you believe in Him. Is you just got to have that faith that He'll take care of you. No matter the situation, whether it's a good or bad situation, He'll take care of you. And so, with a sinking heart of if she might not make it, I look up and they have a pulse. They tell me she has a pulse, and at that moment, I forgot about God instantly. I just got done with that prayer, and I wasn't even thinking to thank you for that moment. And so I was over with right there. They get her in an ambulance, and they take her to Grady Memorial Hospital. And so we drive. It's kind of a couple blocks from our house. And so 6 o'clock in the morning, I have to call family. I tell them everything what's going on with Heather. And so my sister and my mom come from southeast side of Oklahoma City all the way down to Chickasha. And the hospital, by the time, before they even came down, the hospital in Chickasha said they were going to transfer Heather to Integris Baptist on the north side of Oklahoma City. And so I was like, okay, well, once I get my children, sent away to their aunts, and I'll be on my way. Well, my sister showed up almost instantly, so we took off straight up to the hospital in Integris. We got there at the same time that the helicopter got there and got inside, and so I'm talking to the nurse, and she said, we need to talk to you. And I go back, and her and this doctor back there, and the doctor's telling me what went on the helicopter. Said that she had arrested again and was kind of pronounced. He said she didn't have a pulse for a minute, and they were pronouncing her dead, but then she came to again. So, it was just kind of a jumbled mess. I didn't really understand anything they were saying because some doctors just can't enunciate the right things to say, like me sometimes. So they tell her they got to get her stabilized, and so I sit and wait. But then they come back to me again and they tell me she had a fever that was spiking over 109, which in the medical world it's a bad thing because that starts destroying brain cells and functioning cells, not just any kind of brain cells, the ones that affect speech, the ones that affect memory and muscle movement. So they were going to do this hypothermic blanket and the therapy thing to where it dropped her temperature down. And so that worked, and it dropped it down to about 105, and then it finally started stabilizing down to 100. So then they had to drug-induced coma her. They had to sedate her to where her body would rest from all this heart attack action. So we buckled in for the ride, over the next few days. I stayed at the hospital on the floor. My mom had eventually ended up coming up and staying in the parking lot in a Econoline van I had. That back seat would fold down to a bed. My girls were at my brother's house or my other brother's house or my sister's house. Family really helped in this situation because I don't think I could have made it without them either. seeing your spouse in the hospital and trying to be a parent at the same time while still trying to hold it together. That's a rough one. I do want to take a side second for this while I'm thinking about it. To all the doctors and nurses out there, and the ones that are just giving, thank you. Especially coming from a man like me who had been in a lot of hospitals, who has seen doctors and nurses at their worst and at their best. Thank you. You do more than you know, and you're appreciated way more than you think. Yeah, thank you. Back to the story. So she's drug-induced coma, and over the next week or so, I'm kind of going back and forth between Chickasha and then Oklahoma City, and visiting my girls, and staying at the hospital with Heather. So about a week goes by, and my sister Tiffany calls me and is telling me about my daughter Jessica, how she had just told her that Heather, her mother, is with her granddaddy, who my dad wanted just recently in November had passed away. So it's a little scary thing to feel that, that's your daughter saying that's where mom is at, is, she's passed away with granddaddy. It hurt. I didn't want to think about it. And again, I wasn't thinking about God. I just wasn't focusing. I'd pray little small prayers in there, but it was just, my mind was so gone on this person who was my soulmate, who I deemed my soulmate, my best friend. She was it. And she's dying, and I can't do nothing about it but pray. And then so sometimes my mind would lax. Well, that continued for another week and a half. So it's about 2.5 weeks total she was in the drug-induced coma. And I was asleep. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I was asleep inside one of these little... I know what it was. Up in Tegris Baptist, they have this floor 9, and they have these waiting rooms. Well, one of these waiting rooms, I think it was on that west side, 9 West. They have really a nice looking waiting room, and I kind of claimed it for myself because I'd spent a week up at this hospital, especially sleeping on this floor, and it's a hard floor. I'm telling you, that's all concrete. I felt every part on my back and my thighs and my elbows. Sleeping on the floor is not the greatest thing in the world, but you get used to it. Anyway, she comes to while I'm sleeping in this little TV/cafe area waiting room. My mom is sitting next to the bed talking to her, as she did every morning. She'd go spend time with Heather and talk to her. Well, Heather woke up this time, and her first words were, I saw Wayne. Well, Wayne was not my biological father. Wayne was my stepdad's name, who I call my dad, who my daughters call granddaddy. And then instantly, it snapped. God slapped me in the head. Not really, but that's what it was. My prayer that I prayed while the EMTs were working on her. Then when Jessica said that mom is with granddaddy, and then Heather saying she saw my dad, it was like, wait a second. God, are you talking to me? Are you showing me something? I.e., God don't talk to people vocally. That's really only happened like a few times in Bible history. Moses was one of them. I don't know the others. Anyway, so she has to, go through the things with the doctors and the nurses and make sure she's okay and what speech she has and if she retained any memory or memory loss or has any memory loss and blood work and all that stuff once she comes awake. So, it takes a couple days and I really don't get to spend much time with her at that point because they're taking care of her. And so I finally get to enjoy some time and go back and see her while she's coherent and awake. And I'll tell you, the first time I got to see this woman awake and look at me and smiling after this whole ordeal was one of the greatest moments in my entire life. And I thank God for that moment. I thank Him for a lot of moments, but this one in particular. I've seen her go through a lot. That was the first of all of it. But I got to see the glory of God in that moment. I'm sorry. Testimonies, right? Because there's going to be quite a few of these. Man, this video's getting longer. Anyway, to continue the story, so I got to sit down and talk with her. And she was just asking about mashed potatoes, which is hilarious. That was her favorite food, just mashed potatoes. So I asked her, I was like, so, yeah, death, how was it? And she tells me, she goes, it was peaceful. Like, you can't explain the peaceful word. Like, it's past that. It's like exponentially past the word peaceful. She said, your body's so comfortable. And there's no way to describe the peace. And she said, there was no sorrow, there was no pain, there was nothing. She just felt amazing. That's just the feeling she explained it. And she said she walked down this hallway, and the place she was describing was the place I lived for 21 years. It was a house we grew up in. And she got to visit a couple times. And she said she walked down the hallway and walked into the living room, and there my dad sat on this couch playing his video game. He played NCAA 09 all the time, college football. And so she said she walked in this living room and sat down next to him. And he said, will you go back if I give you $20? Will you leave me alone if I give you $20? And she said, yeah. You give me that $20, I'll leave you alone so I can get some Taco Bell. And this is conversation she's telling me she had with him. And she said he put out the $20, and as soon as she went to go grab it, that's when she woke up and saw my mother. And man, I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was some in between earth and heaven, and that's where God puts you, because death, you sleep, and maybe it's a dream. I don't know. I don't understand all that. But I knew God brought her back, and God used my dad as I asked, and that was Him showing me that He's real. Him showing me that He cares and He loves me and He sees me and He wants me to do better. So that's the moment that changed me. That's the moment I knew God was 100% real in my heart. That's a powerful moment, man. And in my bloodline, it takes a lot like that. It takes a lot, stuff like that. Some really hard living, some really smack you in your face type stuff to get you to thinking. Some more testimony videos, for sure, and they won't end like this weirdness. I love you. I love you all. I thank you all, whether you watch it or you don't watch it. I will pray for you all, and God bless. And more of this to come.